Recording in
Come on, hurry up. Mom's gotta get ready for work.
recording. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Lee.
Recording in progress.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, get started here in just a moment. I got a setting that I need to adjust. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes, sir. Excellent. Then we'll go ahead and get started here in just one moment. I'm just gonna go grab my coffee real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and pull everything up.
I want a cup.
You always say you want a cup.
Yeah.
All righty.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure I mute you. So I'm finna, this is a different number. I'm finna mute you now.
Got different number.
Maybe.
Ready. We'll go ahead and get started, y'all. Let us bow. Father, we thank you for this day, this opportunity to
like
come together.
once you get in, you're in.
We thank you, Lord. We love you. We thank you for this opportunity to come together and discuss your word, that we can discern what you would have us to know, Father. We ask forgiveness for the offenses we may have committed to offend you last night or this morning, or those things that were constantly in our mind and we're conflicting within ourselves, to try to move past those things and give all those things to you, Lord, so that we also can be forgiving, so that we also can be merciful and gracious to those around us, Lord. We thank you. We love you. We pray you be with the body of Christ in this world and this nation. And we ask that you give us revelation, Lord, so that we can continue to walk according to your will. We thank you for all things. We glorify you for all things. We honor you for all things, Lord. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All righty, everybody. So before we get moving, just a reminder, go ahead and mute your mics. And if you do have something you'd like to add, just go ahead and jump on in. Last week we left off on Proverbs 9. And he says, he that covereth a transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends. And, we fell back on, charity covers a multitude of sin, right? We extend this love and grace towards one another, and whatever it is that other person has been doing, you kind of watch and see how that just starts to fall apart on them, especially when we have the mind and the heart to want to love and serve others, right? We see how this, but however, if that person continues doing what they're doing, it's one of those kind of tight ropes, right? You really don't want to even be around that. And when you're around that, you continue to subject yourself to that, you see that friendship start to get there's a greater distance involved in that, right? And so now we're moving right into verse 10, which Solomon says, a reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. You ever try, have you ever met somebody who is wise, right? Who is discerning, and let's say somebody in the workplace, you see the way they work, they have good work ethic, and then when they make a mistake because they're still new, you can take them aside and you don't yell at them, you don't scream at them, you talk to them as if you were talking to everybody else, right? A normal person, same dignity and respect that we have for all people. That's the same thing we do. And when you tell them, how they messed up and how they could do a better job, they take that in and they're like, oh, thanks for letting me know that. I appreciate, your advice. I appreciate that. It's interesting when that happens, and then you come across a person who won't take any advice, right? I always love coming across these people who are willing to take constructive criticism, and they deal with it very well. They handle it well. Just in listening, they don't try to cut a person off. They don't try to make a mountain out of a molehill, but they listen and they see, okay, you know what? They're right. I'm new at this job. I'm still learning the ropes. It would behoove me to listen, right? It would be in my best interest to hear what the voice of experience has. But the fool, man, you can't get in, and you can't get a word in with them, right? I love Home Christian. It says a rebuke cuts into a perceptive person. A rebuke cuts into a perceptive person more than 100 lashes into a fool. You imagine what these people were getting, beaten with, what kind of rod? I would imagine it was some kind of, long switch that was easily bendable. Think of a bamboo switch, and it's the same kind of switch that I have. But it's something that it could whip the skin, it could cut the skin. And it seems that a rebuke here is more effective than a significant amount of strikings on somebody who doesn't listen. I was hearing, I believe it was, I was hearing a pastor say how, in the Old Testament law, in the law, it was said that they should receive up to 40 stripes, right? But the Jews would only do 39 in the event that they may have miscounted. So if they miscounted, they'll stop at 39 because they probably actually did more than that. Imagine 100 of these lashes, right? 100 of these whippings with a stick, right? And that fool just won't get it. Man, you could beat him 200 times, he still won't get it, right? He still won't understand where he's wrong, He still won't understand why he's wrong, but in his mind, in that pride of life that he has, he won't let it go. As to where how Holman Christian says a perceptive person, right? Or New American says one who has understanding, right? These New International says a discerning person. You know, these people, this wise, discerning, perceptive person, when somebody tries to give them advice, when somebody tries to give them counsel, they're going to consider it. They're not just going to, you know, in one ear and out the other. They're going to consider it. They're going to hear what's being told to them, and they're going to apply it, right? But not this other person. This other person wouldn't even know what to do with counsel. It's probably better for this fool, and I say this very carefully, but it's probably better for this fool to receive 100 lashings, because maybe he will get it one day. Maybe he'll be like, oh, maybe if I stop doing that, I'll stop getting beat, right? I'll stop getting spanked. I keep telling my son this, like, if you do not want to be spanked, you need to listen. You need to hear and do what your mother and I tell you, what your grandparents tell you, you know, what people with authority over you say, you should do it. Now, granted, I understand how there's situations in which he should be discerning. Prayerfully, I will make sure that as a child right now, he's in situations where he should only have to listen to the people that are in authority over him without worry of them abusing that authority, right? And that's and a lot of that is up to me to make sure that he's around people who do not abuse authority. And so it can take a moment for somebody. There's days where I'll go, 3 or 4 days without having to spank my son. And then there's days where I have to spank him 3 or 4 times in the day, and some days he gets it and some days he goes right back to acting up. And I understand that. We were all children, right? We all went through that at one point or another. But I see that now, with a child, you have it's repetitive. You have to keep instilling that over and over and over again. With the fool, no matter how much you instill it, sometimes they'll never get it. And I'm sure we've all met a person like that. I'm sure we've all met somebody who just, they refuse. Man, I'm gonna do it my way, right? No, but that doesn't work. No, you know what? It works for me because it's my way. And so there they go. They're getting lashed 100 times, and they still can't see past it because they want to do it their way. And this all goes back to what we've always been talking about, and the issue of pride that people have within themselves. I always tell young people, especially when it comes to the gospel, that, and I tell them, because they're like, well, what kind of advice would you give? Or, hearing where you come from, how did this work out? And so I share with people. I'm like, well, it's only by God's glory. I give it all to him. I thank Jesus for everything he's done. And I make sure to uplift that. Right. And they say, well, that's good that works for you. You know what I say? I go, it works if you let it work, but you have to let it work. You have to trust the process. We've heard this term so much. I've heard this term a lot when I was in Atlanta. Trust the process, trust the process. Well, if you don't trust the process, then how are you going to let it work? And if you don't let it work, it's never going to move forward, but you're always just going to be like in this sort of stagnant state that because I don't let it work, I'm just going to be receiving these lashes like a fool, right? That makes sense, y'all? It's something that's been on my mind a lot, on how we receive rebuke. And if we're a discerning person, then we should be able to handle that rebuke in a way where, okay, let me evaluate and see, one, why am I being rebuked? What did I do? How could I do it better? And how could I continue to do it better? Right? How can I grow from this moment instead of being resentful because somebody came and told me I was doing a bad job? Or not so much that I was doing a bad job, but how I could do a better job, right? And we can take this in every aspect, really. You can put this in the work environment, you can put this in the church. At one point or another, we're all going to need to receive some sort of rebuke and reproof, because that's exactly what the scripture is for. If we look at 2 Timothy 3:16, what the purpose of scripture is. We're going to receive rebuke and correction and reproof because we're not perfect. We are not. We can do our best to walk like Christ, but we will never be Christ, right? But as we walk and we're in this walk, his strength is being perfected in us in our weakness. And so if we can continue to accept those things, we grow. And when we hear rebuke, we accept it and we acknowledge it and we apply the rebuke to where we messed up. We're going to be a lot better off than that fool who's receiving all those lashes. And that gets tough, it gets tougher and tougher with that. Sometimes the more lashes mean the less chance of repenting, right? Sometimes it takes a moment. Some people are beaten and spanked so much that they grow callous to it. They grow hardened to it. Their tolerance is through the roof on that. You could spank them all you want. You could lash them all you want. They've been through it. They don't feel it anymore, right? They've developed that thick skin, and it's like, whatever, man, I keep going through it. I don't care because I'm gonna do it my way. And then therein lies the pride of life in the fool. Verse 11, an evil man seeks only rebellion. I'm sorry, King James. An evil man seeketh only rebellion, therefore a cruel messenger shall be sent against him. This is interesting, right? It says a person who is rebellious only seeks evil. So because these people seek only evil, a cruel messenger will be facing them, will be waiting for them. I think a lot in the instances of like karma, right? What is Paul saying? You reap what you sow, right? The things that you put out there, those are the things that come back to you, right? New Living Translation says, evil people are eager for rebellion. It's interesting. They're eager for it. What do we see here? They seek it out. New International says evildoers, they foster rebellion. They like hide it away so that when it's there, it's ready for them. And they foster this rebellion against God. It says, but the messenger of death will be sent against them. Who's that messenger of death, right? Other than the I've been reading Revelations to my son. Other than the archangel that's going to come back. When we see Christ in the sky, and with the voice of the angel and the voice of the trumpet, that's the messenger that's going to come back and right the wrongs, right? An evil man seeks only rebellion. That's the only thing he cares for. He always wants to buck up against everybody. We all know somebody like that. I was like that for many years. And even now there's times when I'm like, I've been sharing this analogy, and stop me if I've shared this analogy with y'all. Somebody was talking to me about, why I chose Jesus, why I chose to seek that life, right? And so the way I said it was, imagine you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're treading water, and you know what? The water feels good, right? You don't think about the predators that are in the ocean, the innumerous amount of things that could take you over, right? That could suck you down, that could drown you. Right now you're treading water and you're having a good time. You're swimming in the ocean. Hey, there's a school of fish. Hey, there's some dolphin right there, right? Like I said, you don't pay attention to the shark or the squid or the jellyfish, the man of war, right? You don't pay attention to these other predators because you're too busy having fun. And all of a sudden, here comes this boat. And guy in the boat says, hey, get in, I got you. What do you say? Do you say you get in? You say, yeah, I'm getting in. I'm tired of swimming. Or you say, no, I want to keep swimming. All right. Guy on the boat leaves, right? Will this guy on the boat, will he ever come back? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe another boat shows up. But this boat, it's not as durable as the first boat, right? The first boat wasn't just a boat. The first boat was a ship. And so where this boat now is a little inflatable raft, right? It can't endure the same sort of storms and conditions that this ship would have endured, right? So let's say I get into the raft, I'm like, I'm tired of swimming. I get into the raft. That raft could be Islam. It could be Buddhism, Hinduism. It could be, you name it. It could be anything but Jesus. So here's this little boat, this little inflatable boat. We start weathering a storm. Man, the boat gets ripped to shreds. Little raft gets ripped to shreds. So I'm back in the water, right? I'm back treading water. Man, I'm having a good time. I'm still not tired yet, right? Okay, back at it. Here comes that first ship. Man, who's in that first ship? It's Jesus, right? Indestructible. It's a battleship. He says, "Hey, I got you. Get in." And I said, "You know what? I'm ready. Let's go." I get in the ship, and we're going to land, right? And as we're going to land, I'm looking overboard, and I just see the water, and I remember all those good times. I remember swimming in the water. I remember how refreshing it felt to be in the water. Do I stay on the ship or do I jump back in the water? Right. And so that's constant thing that's going in my mind. Do I stay on the ship or do I go in the water? An evil man seeks only rebellion. Man, I'm looking at that water. Man, the water looks good. I think a lot about where we were in the past. And although those times may not have worked out in our favor, man, they felt good, right? Man, it was, I had fun. That's the water. I look at that water and I'm like, man, I just want to jump back in it. I constantly want to do that. I think about that a lot. And please pray for me, y'all, because that's something that, even before I left Atlanta, that's always been a thing in my mind. And it's interesting when I see other people express that, because I know I'm not alone in that, because I understand that my mind my flesh will always want to go back to my Egypt, right? To my Babylon. My flesh will always want to go back to Rome, right? I always want to go back to the way I used to be. And I have to do my very best to keep it where it needs to be. But I understand that I'm constantly seeking rebellion against God. And if I continue to seek this rebellion against him, something cruel is going to be waiting for me. Yeah, right? I'm going to be receiving a letter from the person I don't want to. You think about that cruel messenger will be, man, he's got a message for me, and he's going to deliver it. If I continue in this rebellious way, if I continue seeking only rebellion, if I'm always seeking to be in contempt against God, right? Then of course, these things will follow. And so it's in my best interest to not seek these things. Stay on the ship, go to land with the person who saved me. And who's that? Jesus, right? Verse 12. Hey, man. Yeah, thank you, Sister Hardy. Sister Hardy says, you're in good company. The Apostle Paul stated the same struggles. And it's true. We think about Romans 7. We do the things that we don't want to do, and the things that we don't want to do, we do. Right? We're always in this sort of mode where we're constantly battling our flesh. We're constantly telling our flesh, like, stop. This isn't who you are anymore. You're better than this. But then we look at the flesh and we're like, man, well, that felt good. You remember that one time? And then, we're back at it all over again. Or we're stuck in our mind like that, right? Verse 12. Let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. Man, when I first read that, I was like, I couldn't wrap my mind around that for a moment. Let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man than a fool in his folly. It's better for us to come in between a mama bear who has lost her cubs, right? It's better to come in between a mama bear and her cubs than it would be to come in between a fool in the middle of his foolishness. You ever try to give counsel to a fool in the middle of his foolishness? You ever try to maybe tell him to stop? And it can be very dangerous. It could be one of those instances where they could just pop off verbally, or they could pop off physically. It's always best, pardon me. It's always best that when we see people acting this way, when we see people behaving foolishly, and we understand that it could bring harm, whether physical or emotional, mental anguish, just stay away from them. Don't even go near them. It is better for you to go and mess with, a beehive, right? And it's interesting because these are this sort of natural predator sort of outlook. It's better to go mess with a pack of wolves, right? That's what I'm seeing here. It's better to be in an instance of natural danger as opposed to a person who puts themselves in danger. It's you think I mean I got into a lot of trouble growing up as a kid, and a lot of it is because of the people that I hung out with. You spend time with fools, you're gonna be a fool yourself, right? You that whole you are what you eat thing, that goes also with your friends. You are who you hang out with. Now, granted, you may not have the same characteristics, but the more you hang out with these people, you become guilty by association. And it's happened to me many, many times. It's happened to a lot of people that know me. Just because they have associated themselves with me, they are just as guilty for the things that I've done. And so, when you put yourself in that situation, there's a strong likelihood that the outcome of it is going to be very poor. Whether you're disappointing your loved ones, whether it takes you into, it takes you to jail, whether you lose your job, these are all things that are very possible to happen the more you hang out with people that are not the savory type, right? And so Solomon is saying it's better to be in the way of something that could easily kill you, but there's a chance you could survive, than to be put in this situation where the likelihood of your character surviving, right? They kind of go away fairly quickly. When you meddle with people that are behaving foolishly, you can get hurt very quickly, especially if you're not mindful of what they are doing. Now, if you're trying to offer them some kind of counsel, some kind of guidance, then great. But even at that, what did we just read? A few verses above that. If he's a wise man, he'll listen to that counsel. But if he truly is the fool that we see him doing and behaving like, it's gonna be it's better for us to go and meet a mama bear that's missing her cubs, right? Than it would be to deal with this fool in the middle of what he's doing. I like New International. It says better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool bent on folly. I like that, bent on, like, this is his intention. Man, I'm so foolish, I'm gonna go ahead and just do folly. Remember what we were talking about, that there's a strip club up in Atlanta called Follies, and people go in all the time. They're willingly pay money to enter folly. You think about that. The language just insane, that many men and women go to this place and pay money to enter into follies. It's when you say it and then you actualize it, it's like it's a literal thing. It's a very, very literal. There's nothing figurative about it, because you see people literally doing this. And you know what? It's better for you to go meet a mountain lion that's dealing with the same thing, right? That's had her territory trespassed on. It's better to meet a bear that's been robbed of her babies. The science behind this, or not the science behind this, but you watch nature documentaries on bears, and what happens when their cubs may have been taken away. They go crazy. They lose it. They will rip apart anything that stops them from getting back their cubs. Gotcha. I'm just reading something in the chat here. I will make sure to get these recordings to you. Also, we got them on YouTube, so I'll make sure to share the YouTube channel. All right. So yes, it's better that we find ourselves in these sort of natural dangerous positions than we would in the positions that we can place ourselves in, or the positions that others place themselves in. You see somebody rushing to folly, man, look around and see if there's a bear, because I'd rather go deal with the bear than try to save somebody from their own foolishness. And that's hard, you know. Once people get that idea in their mind, they don't want to let it go. I'm one of them, you know, and it's something that I work very hard to, that if I can accept rebuke and reproof, if I got to accept correction, I know things will go better. But the moment that I start denying all those things, I'm just as bad, you know. I'm just as bad as this fool who doesn't care. I'm just as bad as a person who is willingly paying money to enter into folly. You know, I ain't no good. So so in those moments, I had to think to myself, is it better that I put myself in this situation? Man, it'd be better off for me if I ran into this natural situation, as opposed to going and finding a situation to maybe try to help rescue people out of. I mean, who knows really? But when you yourself start behaving foolishly to go into these things, man, it ain't no good for anybody, right? It's definitely not going to help your growth spiritually, right? Much less your physical maturity, right? But we need to find a way to discern, because I know there's times when I see these things, I want to help people, but we have to be discerning that you can't help everybody, right? You can only help those that want to help themselves. And if we can't first start with that, because yes, we can offer help to everybody, but not everybody wants that same help. I think a lot about homeless people. You try to reach out to some of them, but some of them have, you know, mental disorders. So some of them have, you know, drug addiction. And so their mind's not right. And so they're always behaving in this way where you really can't approach them, because they're very temperamental. You can't approach them because they can fly off the handle. They can have something that you don't know and attack you with it. And so it would be better, it's in your best interest to just leave them alone. You know what? If they ask you for something, give, but don't go searching them out, because you don't know how these people are. And that's something that I've been learning, you know, especially, you know, we've had these discussions, having to deal with people who are in this sort of mental state. You know, you think about Arrested Development, like their minds never really matured, and so they're always bucking against authority. They're always going to be right. Nobody else could ever be right. They'll never put themselves in a humble attitude. Why even deal, or why even try to approach these people? And I know why I do. It's because I want to know why. I want to better understand them, you know. But a lot of people don't want to be understood. A lot of people would rather be left in their foolishness, as opposed to trying to have somebody who speaks to them, tries to understand them, and tries to bring them through that. They don't care. They want to still be in that. And why do they want to be in that? Mostly pride. And this is why I wanted to stay in those things. It's because I knew it all. Very, very proudful. Man, it felt good. It felt good to always be right. Man, that's pride. And what else? I think it was the three things that John says that are the reasons, the motivations behind the reasons we sin. It's the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And I always think about why did I do those things? And it was always something, well, man, that looked good. Man, it felt good. And you know what? I thought it right that it was good, because I said it was good, because it looked good and it felt good. It has to be good. And that's where I continue. Like, I'm willing to be this fool that would do those things just so I could have my way. But it doesn't always work that way, right? It may work for a moment, but it doesn't continue to work. Verse 13, whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. You know, ain't that the truth? There's a lot of times that people don't understand why things may not be going their way. But yet when somebody does something good for them, instead of either repaying that person with the good that they were paid with, they will turn around and do wicked again. I'm reminded of the I'm reminded of the parable of the wicked servant, right? You know, this wicked servant, he owes the king hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And the king forgives him because he was about to get thrown in jail until he could pay it off. And we all know that once you go to jail, you can't pay anything off because how are you working? And so he begs the king mercy and forgiveness, and the king's like, all right, yeah, I forgive you. Wipes the debt clean. This servant goes and he finds somebody who owes him a fraction of the amount that he owed the king, and could not share that same mercy and grace that was given to him. So what happened? The other servants saw it. Those servants went and they told the king. The king got wroth, right? The king was angry because this servant couldn't share that. He couldn't extend that same mercy, that same grace that the king extended to him. And so because of that first servant got tossed away, right? Got thrown into jail until he got taken to the torturers, if I remember correctly, until he could pay the last bit. Man, I tell you right now, that servant spent his life there. That servant didn't ever leave that prison, right? We reward evil for good. We better believe we're gonna have what comes to us. And this kind of falls back with the foolishness. Why would we repay evil for good unless we were fools, unless we were proud in heart, unless we didn't care for anyone else but ourselves? And when we only care for ourselves, and of course rewarding evil for good is going to seem right, because you know what? It's not me that's being affected by it, right? But you will be affected by it. Solomon says, evil shall not depart from his house. Evil. And they all say the same thing, right? New International, evil will never leave the house of one who pays back evil for good. Things are, you reap what you sow. You pay back evil for good. Well, you know what? The day's going to come, you might need that person again. And when that day comes, they might not be there to help, right? Or you know what? Better yet, when that day comes, yeah, sure, I'll lend a hand. And then it's kind of like the winking eye, right? It's kind of like, all right, yeah, sure. But I remember how you did me last time. Don't be surprised if I do you like that, right? If anyone, I'm sorry, ESV says, if anyone returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. You see, they're all saying the same thing. He who returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. If anyone returns evil for good, evil will never depart from his house. This is a classic. You reap what you sow. What you put out there, this is what you're going to get back. Go ahead, try it out. I'm going to tell you from my experience, this is one of the truest things I've ever witnessed, because I've done this. I've shorted people. I've scammed people. I have done things for money from others where I could find a way where it benefits me more, right? And benefit them less. And usually when that happens, man, I end up getting short of the cash that I was trying to, it's interesting how those things kind of work. The more I've thought about, okay, how's this going to benefit me? How can I make this happen where it's going to benefit me? And you know what? Who cares about them? Every time I've done that, something else may happen in my life where an opportunity may be taken away, or a situation, I've placed myself in a situation that's not going to be beneficial to anybody. In fact, it hurts me more than anything. But, I was probably drunk still, or I was probably, living through a substance, and didn't care because I was too busy thinking about how I felt as opposed to how I'm hurting others, right? Whoever rewards evil for good, evil will not depart from that house. New Living Translation says, if you repay good with evil, I mean, they all say the same thing. Evil will never leave your house. These are things that we have to be very mindful of. And this is why, I think a lot about what Christ says, love God and love your neighbor. The entirety of the law are embodied in that statement. And if we truly love God and love our neighbor, evil will never be something that's in our mind. And we will always, although we may experience trials and tribulations, we will have something greater to look onto. And those are the things that help build our character so that we do not behave in a way where we repay evil for good. But better yet, everything we do is paid in good. Everything we do, despite anybody paying us evil, we still just repay with good. It's the proverb we read a while back. You give a drink to your enemy, right? And in doing so, you're heaping these hot coals upon them, right? Anybody who rewards you evil for good, you know what? Continue to be good to them, because that love, and we go back to what it says up here. He that covereth the transgression seeketh love. Well, you know what? You keep doing that. You keep covering them with love, and you watch how that turns around on them. They won't know what to do with it. And a lot of times, this is me personally, because this is what happened to me. When I was covered with that love, like I felt shamed. Like, why am I acting like this to these people? They've never done anything wrong to me. Why am I behaving like this with so-and-so? He or she has never said anything bad about me. Man, maybe I need to reevaluate the way I'm behaving. Man, maybe I need to just take a look back and see if I could do some things a little bit differently. Sure enough, you can, but will you? And that's the biggest issue. Will you? It's just like I said earlier. You can trust the process. If you let it work, it works, but you have to let it work. You have to stop with the old and continue on with what we're trying to do, right? Which is walking the walk and doing our very, very best to stay steadfast to those things that we believe, to have integrity. And this mountain that we've chose, to die on that mountain and not be swayed to break left or right, and keep those precepts. Man, just pay good. Just pay good. Always pay good. Because the moment we start paying evil for good, that's when we're going to start that slippery slope. And then next thing you know, things will never go right for you, just because you want to keep trying to benefit yourself before you're benefiting others, right? Verse 14, the beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore, leave off contention before it be meddled with. That's a good one. The beginning of strife is like when one lets out water. It's like a floodgate, right? Holman Christian says to start a conflict is to release a flood. Stop the dispute before it breaks out, right? That's interesting. Which one of us has ever been caught in the middle of an argument and could say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. Hey, you know what? I don't want this to become a thing. I'm sorry that I may have come at you in a certain way. I'm sorry I may have said certain things that might have offended you. How many of us can do that? Can it be right when we see that, okay, everything's going good, and all of a sudden, bam, how do we get ourselves here? Man, we're having a good conversation. All of a sudden, we're yelling and arguing, and we're fighting with each other, and we're putting each other's fists in. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. The beginning of strife is as when one lets out water. It's a floodgate. when you start fighting with somebody, it's a floodgate, right? Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. This is what New International says. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where, maybe it's your brother or sister in Christ, and maybe it's not even a doctrinal matter, but we start having an argument because we don't agree on a particular story or a particular instance in scripture, and we create a mountain from this tiny little molehill, right? This tiny little anthill, and it's like, yo, and then we want to die on that mountain, and it's not even a mountain worth dying on. Why even go through that? Holman Christian says to start a conflict is to release a flood. And you want to get swept up, go start a fight with somebody, right? Go start a quarrel with somebody, start arguing with somebody. And man, you see how easily you get swept up by that. You see how easily your emotions will take control instead of you controlling your emotions. And next thing you know, you say some unsavory things, or you do some unsavory things, and you don't know how to control it, because when you're in a flood, when you're letting out, when this water's being, when the dam is breached, God save you, because that's the only, you know what happens when you're in a flood like that? You ever see rapids? Whitewater rapids. God help you if you're not in a boat, because you could get battered and bruised. You could die very easily, crush your head against a rock, drown. These are all things that happen when we open the floodgates, right? You think about New Orleans before Katrina, before the levee broke, or right when the levee broke, when that happened, thousands of people got swept away. When that happened, there was no way to be able to stop the levee, right? To stop the dam from overflowing, because by that point it was too late. When we start conflicts with others, we're opening a floodgate, and we're allowing ourselves to get pulled away by our words, by our actions. And then we start warring with people. We start disputing with them. I've experienced this many times. That's why I do my very, very best that when I speak to people now a little more soft. My tone is much different, because I don't want to fight everybody anymore. How am I going to try to bring you to Christ if I'm always fighting you? Why would I fight you if what I'm saying is going to be in direct conflict with me arguing? I don't want to argue with anybody. I just want to share my testimony. I just want to show you that, hey, you know what? Jesus works if you let him work. Let him do his job. Let him do what he's meant to do, which is to change you, right? Every day I feel it. That stony heart that Ezekiel talks about. Yo, every day there's a chisel at my heart, because I'll tell you what, it's still made of rock, because there's times when I hear something or I see something, and you know what? It doesn't faze me. It doesn't worry me. It doesn't upset me. It's because my heart is still hard in a lot of areas. And then there's things when I look at in other things, and it makes me cry. And it's because in those other areas, my heart has become flesh, right? But when I allow myself to go into this sort of, mode of behavior with, hey, you know what, that's not right. And then I go and I start getting in a person's face and putting my finger in their face. And it's like, hey, you're agitating them doing this. There's another way you could go about doing this. Don't start a fight, because next thing you know, things are going to get out of control. You're going to get swept up. And that's exactly what happens whenever we start trouble with other people. Can you navigate yourself in a flood? Man, Noah needed an ark, right? You think about that. You need something to get in if you're going to be in that sort of thing. You think people who are affected by floods nowadays Some of them, because they've lived through it, they got a boat in the backyard, just ready to get up, ready to be taken up when the waters rise, because they know it, they've experienced it. When I start a quarrel, will I have a boat to be able to navigate through the flood? Or better yet, when somebody starts a quarrel with me, can I leave it alone enough to be able to get in that boat and navigate and maybe pull them out of the flood? Crazy, right? Verse 15, he that justifieth the wicked and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to the Lord. We see this, this is nothing new. Evil people being paid with good, right? He that justifies the wicked. Well, we see this a lot in the court systems, and he that condemns the just. We've seen this a lot in the court systems, in the worldly court. I mean, I think about, it's interesting. Back, the OJ trial, right? People were on both sides of that. Did he do it? Did he not do it? And a lot of people, they didn't care if he did it. They just didn't want OJ to go, right? And we justify within ourselves. I'm going to tell you right now, whether he did it or not my business, not my problem. I'm just using this as an example. But, sometimes we're rooting for somebody. Oh man, there's no way he could have done that, right? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Let's say he did do it, right? But we're rooting for him. We're justifying his wickedness, right? Or now let's look at the other many people who have been condemned who are just. Those both those things are wickedness in the sight of God. Both of those things, they're conflicting, they don't. It's like this guy right here. Where are you at? Excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. Those things shouldn't happen, right? Those is not something that they don't work, right? Same thing here. If you justify the wicked and you condemn the just, this is wickedness to the Lord. It's detestable. It's not supposed to work like that. The wicked should be condemned, while the just are justified. But they've inverted it, and we could see this in many aspects. Not just we could see this within the church, we could see this within the workplace, and we could see this everywhere throughout life. I look at many people, and there may not be good workers, but they're justified. You know why? It's because probably they're getting good with their bosses. Maybe they do a good job for a little bit, and then they pass the buck to somebody else. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a wicked person can become justified. Maybe they're smooth talkers, right? That's a big one. If you're a smooth talker, you can be justified easily, and you can find ways to justify the things that you're doing if you make it sound eloquent enough. I know I've done that. And he that condemneth the just, man, these are both an abomination to the Lord. I think about how many times I've done that. How many times I have, shamed righteous people, right? Man, made them feel like dirt. I think about how many times I've done that. And then there's times where that happens to me. And you know what? When those times happen to me, where somebody condemns me, and I know I am doing what is right, I know what I'm saying is truth, I sit back and I think about all those times that I cut people down to size. Those people that were righteous, those people that were, well-doers, and I would cut them down. And so when somebody does that to me, I just start holding my tongue. Because then what happens if I don't hold my tongue? Well, then I start reverting into my old ways, and I start looking at, well, how can I justify what I think and what I believe? And you know what? My words can cut them too. And so then I start up again, and I start to justify myself through wicked actions, through wicked speech. And I'm no better. But it'd be better that I hold my tongue, right? That'll be the safe bet, as opposed to thinking that, no, I'm gonna justify myself. How? Through my pride, through what I think is right. Right. And then we go on, and people might say, well, you know what, Vidal had a point, but he didn't have to go about it that way. But I'm still just as unrighteous and wicked as this other person, as opposed to if I'm getting cut down and I truly am a just person and I'm being condemned, do I fight back or do I just hold my peace? Yes, I should hold my peace so that I don't lose my peace, right? Because I don't want to be an abomination. I do not want to be detestable to the Lord. I know in some aspects I am, and every day I'm working on that. I think about the filthy rags. That me and my righteousness is like filthy rags. But yet I'd come to him, please cover me with your love so that I'm not this smelly, gross, disgusting person in my filth. Cover me with your love, Lord, so that I can justify the just, so that I know when wickedness is happening, I can condemn that. Lord, please give me that discernment. And Lord, please cover me with your mercy and your love, with your grace. And those are things that we need to think on, because has there ever been a time where you may have justified actions that you may have thought were right, but later on you look at them and you're like, man, that wasn't right. No, that wasn't something we should do, right? And again, I see this a lot in the court systems. And it's interesting. I think about the case of the young brother in Dallas who got shot in his apartment by a female cop. Instead of instead of the family condemning this woman, because they have the right to condemn her. They have the right to say what you did was wicked and wrong and evil. You took a life. You took our son's life, our brother's life, and they have every right to be angry. But the way both of Jean's brother acted, it's probably one of the most amazing acts I've ever seen. He said, I don't wish you any harm. I want you to know that I love you. And he starts sharing the gospel with this woman. Instead of condemning her, instead of justifying the wicked things that people would say, I hope you burn in hell, right? I hope you never receive salvation, because these are the things that you think about. You're experiencing them. You've lost a member of your family, your son, or your brother, or your sister, and we get angry, and then we allow wickedness to take over, to take hold of our speech. But instead, this young man, he shared the gospel with this woman and says, I love you. How? Where else can that come from but from Christ, right? If I wasn't in Christ, I'd have a whole slew of words. I would have a whole nother thing ready to give this woman. You know what? In this case, this woman wasn't justified for what she did. In this case, she was condemned for her wicked actions. I can't say what was going on in her mind when she did what she did. I cannot say. I don't believe any one of us can say. We can all speculate, and especially in a time that happened in, people were high emotion, high tension, and everybody was ready to take somebody to a crucifixion for their actions, for the things they've said. And we were ready to condemn everybody for the things they said, right? But a lot of times in those moments, somebody else could get caught up with it. A just person can be condemned, and they'll find a way to, and a wicked person will be justified. And it happens all the time. It doesn't just happen in the courts, but this happens in workplaces. It doesn't just happen in the workplace. This happens in the church. People get justified all the time, and for no good reason. We can't. One, I don't allow that to navigate how I treat people, because you know what? You're gonna get what's coming to you. You reap what you sow. What you put out there, that's what comes back to you. If you're sowing hate, hate's gonna be around you more often than not. But if you're sowing peace, you're gonna reap those rewards of peace. All right, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and leave off right there. That's so we'll pick it up next week in verse 16. Before we go, do we have any comments, any questions, anything anybody would like to add before we accept prayer requests? Okie dokie. Brother Hester had a comment as Galatians 6, verse 7 and 8. I just want to pull that up real quick. Just it says, don't be misled. You cannot mock the justice of God. You'll always harvest what you plant. Those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. Amen. You think about that. We will reap what we sow. If we're out there and we're just trying to me, do the cash grab, only work for ourselves. If we are only self-seeking and not self-sacrificing, then it's gonna get really hairy, y'all. It's gonna get really hairy for us when we start behaving in such a way. All right, y'all. Are there any prayer requests before we let out?
Yes, good morning. This is Diane Brunson. Vivian Wilburn is having surgery at 11 o'clock today, so please keep her in prayer. And she's also asking for prayer for Robert. She's in respite care for 2 weeks while she recuperates, so please keep them in prayer. Thank you.
Amen. You said Brother Wilson's in respite care?
Yes, for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Sister Brunson.
You're welcome.
Are there any other prayer requests before we let out, y'all? No comments? I'm gonna have to start making questions for everybody.
We're muted, so it's hard to speak sometimes.
Oh,
Excellent.
yeah. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate you.
Love you and miss you too. Good to see you every Wednesday that we
Yes.
can. God bless you.
Thank you, sis. Yeah, this is one of those. I'm really glad that I continue to do this class. It really helps. And right now, I've gone back to working on Wednesdays, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a normal thing or not. So this having this class is a big help to me.
Good. And helps you grow too, and you're helping us grow while you grow.
Amen. Amen. I'm incredibly happy for y'all. I'm incredibly happy, really, for all of us. And it's like you said, we edify one another, and this is iron sharpening iron. And
Yes.
sometimes, when iron sharpens iron, sparks fly, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
All right, y'all. Are there no other prayer requests? If there's not, then we'll go ahead and close. All right. Then we'll go ahead and bow and we'll get moving. Are there any other classes after this class today? Exercise class or anything like that? I'm gonna take that as a no.
No, it's not, Vidal.
I appreciate you, Brother Cornelius.
So the exercise class has been canceled?
No, we have exercise class every
Oh.
first, second, third, and fourth
Oh,
Wednesday.
Awesome. All right, y'all. We'll go ahead and close the prayer. I do ask that y'all continue to keep us in prayer. You keep my aunt. Her name's Dolores Martinez, and her daughter Violet and her daughter Blanca. They're all experiencing a lot. My cousin lost her grandson about a month ago. Her grandson passed, and she was taking care of her grandson because she had lost her daughter a few years back. My other cousin, she takes care of my aunt full time. Right now, my aunt is in a respite care also because she's on hospice already. So they've already kind of worked on the paperwork for her. So just please keep my family in prayer. They're experiencing some hard trials, and in general, and I love Sister Grogan in this. We keep one another in prayer. Keep the young people in our congregations in prayer. I mean, right now it's becoming increasingly difficult for many young people to see that light at the end of the tunnel. They see things are getting bad, and it's like I said, they're looking to jump ship, or they don't know what ship they're getting into. They don't know what boat they're getting into when they're out there, treading water. And let's be prayerful that they know which boat to get into, because there's only one boat that'll weather the storm, while all the other boats, there's a very high likelihood that they'll be destroyed in the storm. So just keep everybody in prayer. Are there any new people in class? It seems like everybody here is. I know I'm not sure who the iPhone is, or or the Motorola One 5G.
Should we have a roll call?
Well,
Vidal,
yes,
good
Sister
morning, you
Kennedy.
all. As always, keeping my family in prayer, but let's remember to pray for the people in Ukraine and Russia.
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. It's interesting about that. I'm talking to a lot of people right now at work, and they're young and they're like, oh, I want to travel Europe, and maybe this summer we'll go to Europe. I'm like, do you realize that? And it's funny because these are things I said when I was in my 20s. I want to go to places that I've never been to, not realizing what's happening in those places, and it's one of those things where, and some people, they just don't know, and then they see what's happening. That was one of the things, I started seeing what was happening, and I was like, man, I'm very grateful to live where I live. And a lot of young people, I don't think they realize, although the terrible history this country has had, it's a much better place to live than many, many other places in this world. The freedoms and liberties that we have are next to none in comparison to what else is out there in the world, and especially with what's happening in Ukraine and Russia right now. But yes, you're right, sis. Keep those people in prayer, because they are experiencing something they probably never thought they'd live to experience. And that's something that I hope I never live to see, but I'm fairly certain I will. right. Sister Sonia Bates has also posted the information in the chat for the virtual fitness class. It says first and third Wednesday with Greta Beasley, and she's posted her phone number there, and then second and fourth Wednesday with Tanya Iverson, and she's posted her number there as well. And that'll be after 10 a.m. Bible study from 11:15 to 12:15. So we'll go ahead and get everybody going. The meeting ID is also in the chat, as well as the fitness. You can, copy and paste those if y'all don't already have them, so it wouldn't be difficult. But we'll go ahead and get everybody going. If there are no other prayer requests, then we'll go ahead and let out. All right, y'all, let us bow. Father, we thank you for this day, this opportunity to touch more on your word, Lord, that we too can put away our old foolishness, that old man, that old person who we used to be, Lord, and continue to seek to be the new man, that righteous man, that person that can distinguish when it is foolishness, when to stay away from those things, how to be able to push ourselves so far away from it, Father, that we can't even reflect it anymore. We ask that you continue to work that in our lives, that you continue to chip away at our hearts, Father, to continue to put that heart of flesh so that we can feel, so that we can know when we're offending you and offending others, and we can stop ourselves mid-track and say no. Lord, we thank you. We love you. We're asking prayer, Father, for Sister Wilburn as she goes into her surgery this afternoon, Father, that you guide the doctor's hand and all things work out well, that you be with Brother Robert as he goes into respite care, Father, that things go easily for him, that they are always putting you in the forefront of their lives, Lord, that they are always at the center of it, that you are always at the center of them, Father. We're also asking prayers for Sister Kennebrew and her family. We're asking prayers that you continue to work on them, Father. We're asking prayers, Father, for the people in Ukraine who are experiencing a political turmoil, Father, and not just a political turmoil, but a turmoil that has moved into acts of war, Father. These are things that I would have hoped to have never seen in my lifetime, but I know that these things are to happen. And I know, Lord, that things will only get worse and worse, but for those who believe in you, they only get better and better. I know that in this world, Father, I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in my home, because I know this is not my home. And I give you all the glory for that. I thank you, Lord. I ask your will be done. I ask forgiveness in any way I've offended you, Father, and that I too can be forgiving, that I too can share that grace, that same mercy, that I too can share truth to all those, Lord, to all those who are truly seeking it. Because those who are truly seeking truth, when they hear it, they know it. And it gets harder and harder to deny it as it's confronted and it's facing you. And for that, I thank you, Lord. I ask all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 All right, y'all.
We thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes.
Lesson. That was a good lesson.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. You know, like I said, I'm really grateful for this class. And I thank God that, the brother and sister more saw fit that I would be here for y'all. So
Yeah.
I thank y'all. I love y'all. And we'll see each other next week. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Good day.
Yes. Everybody take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.